Welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. As I'm Mark Marquette, and thankful that you're with us today to Stay Curious. And it's White Family Day here on Stay Curious, as we've got our good buddy Terry White here, the OPF manager of those orbital processing facilities of America's 5 beautiful fleet of space shuttles, and son Travis. Hey Travis White.
How you doing, sir?
Good to see you, and daughter Rebecca up there. All right, Travis is active major in the U.S. Army. Rebecca, were a Navy pilot chasing submarines, you told me?
An operator.
An operator? Okay. Well, welcome. And we're glad to have you here, and understand both of you have watched Dad on Stay Curious before. You in Iraq, Travis, we've talked to you.
Yes,
and
sir.
waved you from Iraq there. So,
I had some friends there that would watch with me, so it was great just getting up early in the morning.
you're right. Yeah, probably. What what is the time difference in Iraq?
9-10 hours, I think, ahead. So,
Rebecca, tell us first, you're a service to our country real quickly there.
Like where I've been.
Just you were in the Navy. What career did you have there? And
So I made it to an E6. I was in for almost 12 years. All over the world tracking submarines.
Interesting.
So
So you know some secrets, huh? In there. And Travis, you've been how long? You were in 12 years. You enlisted how long ago? And,
I just hit 13 on Thursday.
wow.
Or Wednesday, sorry.
All right. And you did how many deployments over in the middle of
Last one to Iraq was the 4th deployment, so
Oh, God bless
2 in
you.
Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq.
And what's your forte in the Army there?
So I just transitioned to a space operations officer. So
Oh.
I monitor the health and welfare of satellites, doing different things to support the warfighter to make sure they get PNT or navigation, GPS, support operations.
Well, that'd be a whole other Stay Curious program in itself there today, in there. And Dad told me you're going to go up to Alaska.
Yes, sir. So I'm going up to Alaska.
From Iraq, 110 degrees, right, to Alaska. That's quite a transition, huh?
So, yes, sir. I'll stand up their 11th Airborne Division, their space cell.
Okay.
So-
And you're based out of
Anchorage.
Oh, Anchorage. Okay. Have you ever been up there before?
In high school, we did a vacation up there during this summer.
Okay.
This will be the first time. It'll be a 3-year gig.
I managed a camera store, and people that went to China, Europe, Australia, Africa, they loved Alaska. Over
That's
all of
great.
them. They really
Everybody
did.
I know that went to visit there just wants to go
Yeah,
back.
I haven't in there, but well, tell us a little bit about your dad here, and what you think about what his career is, because you guys were young. He was putting you guys through school and stuff like that, or not school, I guess, because you went in the military.
So I look at it as it's his 3rd kid. So he has Rebecca and I, and then the space program is his other kid. That
Oh, okay, all right, that's all right.
he's take pride in and everything he's done. So he used to come to our school, elementary school, high school, and middle school, bring co-workers, and they would bring the bunny suits that you have out in the museum and kind of show them off, and do the tile experiment where you'd say, hey, this tile holds water, and then we coat it with paint and everything, and then heat it up, and now it doesn't. So it's really, really fun having him and my mom there to explain that stuff.
Well, good. So you were into it.
Yeah.
You were like, oh, don't tell me more about the shuttle, Dad. I
we
want to.
still, every chance we get, we go out there.
Uh-huh.
We're like,
So
oh, you want to go to the space? Like, I got my dad. It's the VIP tour. Let's go.
yeah, so you probably met a few VIPs along the way, just in fly on the background wall there.
Yes, sir.
You remember any of those experiences, Travis?
John Glenn, we met him. We played foosball with a couple different pilots and commanders.
Oh, did you?
So
Yeah.
a lot of different parties out at shuttles and different places here in Merritt Island and Cocoa Beach.
Uh-huh.
that we
So
meet.
the last shuttle was 11 years ago. So you're in your teens basically then those years,
It's college, so
college even. So you could understand it real well and appreciate it. Rebecca, how about you? What do you remember tagging along with Dad?
All that. Getting to go inside Endeavor.
Oh,
We did like a really big VIP tour where we got to go up on the top of the.
OB 105.
Yeah.
We got to go inside Endeavor. We got to sit in a
Sit in the
launch
crew
director's
module.
chair.
Oh, that's some precious memories there.
And then all the take your kids to work days.
Yeah.
We couldn't go where he worked at the time, but
How about bringing your parents to work day? Did you win that over all the kids as the coolest parent, or?
Yep.
pretty close in there. Well, we're here today to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the orbiter Atlantis, OV-104, being put to rest, so to speak. I kind of hate to think of it that way, but it's a museum piece now after flying to space, I think 39 times, somewhere around there, 33.
Yeah.
I can look at my shuttle
It's
scroll.
33. Yeah, I tell people it's serving a new role now. It's not carrying astronauts and payloads to space. It is educating people about our space program.
Yes. Mike Mullane, we're going to talk about, was one of the 6 astronauts there today. Marty Winkle and I went to that. And Mike Mullane said, when you're standing underneath Atlantis, you're looking at wonder.
Yes.
That's what he said about it there. Marty's behind our Streamlabs here. We're grateful to have the White family in here today, aren't we? And he's writing down names of all of you that are watching the show today. And we're going to show you a little bit about the event today. We've got behind you here a look at the Atlantis. If I do it this way, we you get a better view there of underneath the wing of the beautiful bird. That the podium's in the back there. John Zarella did the MC job there, of the former CNN, still a reporter, and we'll show you the astronauts that are there.
One thing about the Atlantis display,
Yes.
Rebecca was up for reenlistment, and so I got permission for her to reenlist in front of Atlantis. And they let like 30 family members come out there for the reenlistment. And I actually had 2 Navy astronauts call me and said, can we give her oath of reenlistment? And I said, her brother is trying to get home because it takes an officer to do it. And I said, and he's going to give her the oath, but and so he made it in time to go give her the oath of reenlistment, but the astronauts showed up to thank her for being in the Navy. So.
Oh, wow, that's sweet. What astronauts were those? You
I don't
remember?
recall.
I
Do
don't
you?
remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a couple years.
Rebecca, we can have you sit down over there, honey. I forgot to pull you a chair up there.
It's fine.
But we're loving you being part of this today. What we at the American Space Museum on Stay Curious have really enjoyed is touting the shuttle legacy that it lives today on the International Space Station. You're going to see pictures of Bill Shepard, our first commander of the space station, and famously took the pictures of the 9/11 towers burning up when he was on the International Space Station. Does your generation understand and appreciate, you think, the shuttle legacy we talk about?
I don't think so. A lot of people took it for granted, and a lot of people just don't know. Like working in the space operations I do now, it's a lot focused on satellites and different things, not actually how it gets to space, on more of what happens when it gets to space and how we utilize the capabilities we have versus the lift portion of it.
How about you, Rebecca? How do your peers
No, they
get
don't.
into the shuttle like we do, and we think people should?
Oh, I think they should. I think all the space launches, you know how it used to be the president, there's 3 channels. Anytime he came on,
Yeah.
he was on all the channels. That's how a launch should be. You don't have to film everything, but the countdown a little bit after, I think it should be for everybody to see, because there just isn't the education that we grew up with.
No, we're when SpaceX does a launch here, you could be standing in line at a convenience store, and someone will say, "Boy, they launched another shuttle today." And well, they haven't for 11 years, but I'm not going to correct you. At least you're looking at something going up in the sky there. Tell us the reverse side of it. Very demanding job. Your schedule was not a 9 to 5 type of job. You're raising your children here. You're keeping your wife happy.
Yeah, there was lots of times they were confused because, there were periods when I would work first shift one day and second shift the next day, so they never knew when I was going to be home. One night I would be there for dinner, and then the next night I'd be working that time. So yeah, it was a little bit tough on them, but they enjoyed it. Our house was right outside the gate, so they were close to it, and friends of mine that I worked with and that came by, so they got to know a lot of people, a lot of families that worked out there. So yeah, and it was a good place to grow up, good education, and just basically right on the forefront of the space program. So
Right, right. Well, that's and you know, everyone. Marty worked at Apollo. A lot of sacrifices made with the families in the Apollo. I think they may have had some lessons learned there because there wasn't a moon race with another superpower to keep people up at night and so forth.
But there was still a lot of schedule pressure to get certain payloads up in a timely manner. They needed to be up there, and then just getting the vehicle ready took a lot of time. People didn't realize how much time it did take to get it ready, and it was a lot of 12-hour days, 7 days a week for week after week.
Well, when it was sold as in 1972 and Congress bought the idea, they were going to do, they thought a launch every other week.
Yes.
And the manifest I've seen in the 1980s for the was like 40 missions a year type of thing and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were each supposed to fly 100 missions.
Yeah,
each
shuttle.
the program was supposed to only last about 12 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I tell you, we're going to enjoy a little program here. Looking back at Shuttle Atlantis, we're going to show you some of the astronauts there. Was not expecting Rebecca here, and I'm so glad she is. And what I'm going to do to make it more comfortable, Rebecca, I'm going to have you sit there. Okay. Excuse us a second.
We'll just shift over.
Yeah. There you go. I'll just shift over one there. There you go. And I can stand off camera there because we'd rather see the White family here. What a privilege. You are all from Louisiana. This is the. Pardon me.
I can get you in a corner.
I'll just sit here. I think that's good. Tell us about where you grew up, where you raised your family. I mean, you were here for a lot of years, but
Yeah, well, they
Born and
were
raised
both
here.
born and raised on Merritt Island. So,
oh, okay, all right. So, did you? How'd you end up in Louisiana?
well,
You married a
Yeah.
man of occasion. Oh, okay. All right. Well, you want to shout out to?
So, hey, Lon.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in Tennessee right now, working at a plant. And he
Okay.
just he's an operations supervisor for Dow. So
All right. So she's had the babies.
yes.
All right. So did you-
4.
4. Okay. You just had one recently.
3 months, yep.
3 months. God bless you. Yeah, I remember you going out there for that.
Yeah.
So what are your children's names?
Lane, Riley, Renee, and LJ.
LJ. All right. In there. And you got a family?
No, sir.
You're not married?
Nope.
Okay.
So he has to play uncle.
that's a, that's okay because all of the
Deployments,
deployments
traveling.
you had
Yes,
over
sir.
there. What should an old guy like me think about what you've done to protect our country over there in an unpopular sometimes situation without being political or anything about it? No, I put you on the spot, but
I met
we-
some great people over there. So between Iraq and Afghanistan, I have some great friends, some awesome experiences, and some bad experiences. But there's, just the people you work with is what makes those deployments so much fun and so enjoyable, and where you
I guess I
keep
want
keep
to
waking
ask.
up.
We need to be there. Is that? I mean, we want to believe that we need to be there. So
There's people that can't defend themselves, and things we need to do to help them out. So it was an experience, and one that I'll never forget.
well, I'm sure we surely appreciate that. So, well, let's get back into the shuttle here with our White family there. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to put up a picture there, Marty. There we go. We're going to look at the show today there. Let's see if I go forward there. This was the setup that Marty and I were there. Bill Whiting was there. Who else did we see there? We saw
Carlton Bailey.
Carlson Bailey was there, and we had Gene Wright and Ken Kramer were there. A lot of the local space geeks there.
Mikey.
Yeah, Mikey Haddad, who was on our show yesterday, was there. Wait, how'd that go? Oh, yeah, we're backed up there. I see. All right, he's kind of got out of.
Yeah, I think I forgot to send it back to the board.
He's got. All right, let's go this way. Here we are. We're thanking Go History Travel for their financial donation. We have bought some new computers. We've got a new laptop computer. Might get some new stuff for our Stay Curious program here. So thank you to them. And we're going to talk a little bit about Terry's knowledge about mothballing, literally, Atlantis after its final flight in July. Well, it's over next month in 2011. We'll be celebrating 12 years, Terry. I bet it doesn't seem like over a decade that you last worked with that bird.
Some days it does, some days it doesn't.
Tomorrow, we've got this young man, David Mealy's going to be on Stay Curious. He is a propulsion engineer, and Via Space is our backyard rocket company that is over in Cocoa. They fly rockets made of plastic and 3D printed. And he's going to tell us all about it. They're getting real close to doing their low Earth orbit. And there are thousands of payloads the size of toasters and a small desk that are waiting to go to space. This is a huge business for people right now. And you shake your head, Travis, are you going to be involved in that low Earth orbit?
It's low cost. It's easy to get up there considering everything else, and just the replacement value and all that, and the cost of getting space is just a lot easier now than it was before.
Good. Well, we're going to enjoy that. Here's the poster that they were handing out. Space Shuttle Atlantis turns 10. Marty, I don't know if maybe I need to talk on your microphone. If you key that, I probably.
It's coming across good.
Am I coming across good? Okay. Because
You're so loud.
there's the poster there. We'll be getting some astronauts to sign that as we're out there. But a cute little poster that they handed out. There are the astronauts up the upper deck. Those of you that have been here, there in the center is where the theater is, that the scrim is, and when they reveal that, it is one of the greatest reveals of anything I've ever seen. And you're all agreeing there. Isn't that dramatic?
It's a tearjerker
It
for people
is.
that have grown up with.
Yeah, you're in that little amphitheater, and there's a shuttle flying all over you. They talk about it, and they go, "Well, welcome home, Atlantis," and
You should have been there the night they had the special ceremony, the unveiling, because 49 astronauts returned for it.
oh my God!
And I was standing at the nose of the vehicle because they said that's where they're used to seeing you working on the vehicle. And when the screen went up, I looked, and all of them were in there tearing up because they never thought they would see that view again.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. They have it behind the scrim. You don't know if it's real or not. And then the wall comes up. You're going, my God, that's it. And I get goosebumps just thinking. But look at that every time. It's just amazing. It is the best thing I've ever seen of any museum thing, and all the astronauts love it. It is there at an angle. Talk about that a little bit, Terry. It's purposely tilted like that, right?
Yes. At an angle, it enhances your view of looking in the payload bay, but they set it at a special angle, and I will get engineers that come through and I argue and I ask them what degree is it sitting at, and they all quote something, and hardly anyone ever gets it right.
Oh.
But they go, it has to do with the orientation of when they're docking to space station. And I said, no, it does not. It's because it's Kennedy Space Center. It's sitting at.
It's the attack angle of it doing a loop or something, right?
No, it's sitting at 3-2-1.
Oh, is it? It's
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, we're going to see some pictures of it before they had to build a building around it. And in fact, it's very interesting. Terry will talk about that in a second. And we've got a question here, Marty.
Yeah, got a question from Tom Usiak. How close to a burnout, Terry?
How close to a burnout? For me or for?
How close to what for a burnout? How close to a burnout?
He just says. Maybe he didn't complete his sentence. He said, how close to a burnout through? So, Tom, get back to us.
Okay, how close to a burn through? Oh, where they were talking about some burn throughs and stuff like that on STS-27 because Mike Mullane was there. And let's look at the astronauts who were there today. Left to right there is Chris Ferguson with 3 flights and a Boeing. He was going to fly the Boeing Starliner first time, but he backed down from that. But he's in the Hall of Fame. And then in the middle there's Mike Baker, who's looking up at the bird with Guy Gardner looking at him. And Mike was saying, I can't believe I spent 24 days of my life in that right up above me. Up there.
Fergie was a commander of STS-135.
Yes, he
the last
certainly
flight.
was.
Yes.
He certainly was. And which they took 4 people up there. I never understood why they didn't just put 6 or 7 to get people along for the ride.
It was not supposed to fly 135. 134 was supposed to be the last flight, but we had 135 already in case they had to go. There was a problem with 134 and they had to go rescue them. So they said, hey, let's just load it with all the cargo we can with a small crew, and we'll take it up and resupply space station with as much as we can get on there, and that's why we do. And then ask the question, well, what do we do if there is an issue? So they're going to space station. They just stay on space station till they can catch a ride back on the Russian capsule later on. So they approved 135.
And the rest is history, of course. Bill Shepard there on the left was the first commander of the ISS in 1999. Really an amazing astronaut. Marty and I liked him a lot. He was real personable and had some good stories to tell. Of course, Anna Fisher's there in the middle, one of our first 6 women astronauts. Marty, I thought it was interesting. They asked John Zarella was asking them what they took to space with them that they remember in their personal kit. She took 3 necklaces with her, one for her, and one for her husband, and one for her son. Mullane was saying, boy, you didn't take anything more than you were supposed to. But I've heard from a couple astronauts, Marty, that they tape jewelry to their body, okay, under their garments there, because we won't throw anyone under the bus, but one of these astronauts says, I've got a lot of women in my life, nieces and wives and aunts and so
Yeah,
forth.
they're restricted weight-wise and size-wise is what they can take. But I know one that forgot to declare his wedding ring, suited up in that. He looked down and realized he still had his wedding ring on. So when they're going up on ascent, they are wearing a diaper, okay, because they can't get out of their suit until they get all wet. So he dropped his wedding ring in his diaper, and he said, "Don't ever tell my wife."
That's Did anything get flown to space for your kids or anything like that? Did you ever have an opportunity to do that?
No, I only have one thing that was flown, and Tim Copra flew it for me, and him and I worked Columbia recovery together. And he said, "Hey," one day he said, "Hey, you got something really lightweight, personal that I can fly to space for you?" And I said, "Sure." So I brought in my rescue patch where I flew air rescue in Vietnam, and I gave him the patch.
Oh, wow.
And he took it to space. And then one day I was out at the runway for some reason, a couple of T-38s come taxiing up, and the canopy comes up on one, and guys hollering at me, "Don't leave, don't leave." And I look, and it's Tim, and he gets out of the aircraft, goes back, rummages around through his stuff, and hands me my patch and a certificate that had flown into space and on the
How
space
sweet
station.
is that? How
Yep.
sweet is that? So you guys gonna flip a coin for that when Dad's too old to handle it anymore?
Well, it's odd. They each get a silver Snoopy when I pass, because you're only supposed to ever get one silver
Right.
Snoopy in your career. I received 2,
Oh.
so they will each get a silver Snoopy. So
Who sponsored both of those? An astronaut sponsors you.
I cannot remember the names. One of them, the signature's faded so much that I have to get it re-signed. But yes,
Well, we're talking with Rebecca, Travis, and of course Dad, Terry White, and we're so your dad is the kind of people that our museum is so fortunate to be part of our museum and want to promote us, because we're a proud nonprofit that struggles from time to time in there, and it's people like him that we call national treasures. Marty's the same way. They've done things that no other career will do in our country. And you can chime in anytime you want here and rebuttal him or correct him. But
It's hard to
Dad's
do
got
that.
a pretty good memory, Dad.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he certainly does there. Here's the picture we're using as the backdrop there. And let me go to the next one there. Yeah. So there is off the wing. I'm up at the top in the looking in the payload bay, basically. Well, I'm a little bit below that. And all the astronauts are looking up there, Terry, as you see Chris Ferguson's talking about the port where the urine was dumped out of.
urine dump nozzle.
Yeah, urine dump nozzle there. And but really, they're also checking out John Zarella's hairdo there, because John wanted to make sure he's in place there. John Zarella, of course, the legend at CNN, and he's one of the guys responsible for our 24-hour news channels that we have today. But John, you did an excellent job today with the master of ceremony duties there. Well, we want to talk a little about with Terry here about what his job was there, just to set the bar there. That we've got the orbital processing facilities. Okay, so there is the big vehicle assembly building, and you see two buildings on the right and one on the left there.
In the
Terry,
beginning,
tell us about it.
we had orbiter processing facility 1 and 2 that you see on the right third of the photo. And then after a while, NASA realized that they wanted to do the major maintenance on the vehicles here, so we built orbiter processing facility number 3, but it didn't have the ability to safe a vehicle after flight, but we would take the vehicle in there for major modifications. In other words, take it offline for months to upgrade it, make changes and that. Well, they realized that no, we needed a third processing bay, so we turned it and made it capable of deservicing a vehicle, because a vehicle was very hazardous when it returned from its mission. So we had to get it in and get the hazardous components removed so more people could come in and get their work done. But basically, these were the garages. We took it apart after its flight, took out whatever payload came back, if any did, or just the fixtures that held the payload. We took out the engines. They went to the engine shop. We started building up for the next payload. If it was a horizontal payload, we actually put it in. But we did multiple inspections all over, inside and outside the vehicle. We did a lot of work on the orbiter's thermal protection system. We cleaned everything. We were lucky we did not have to clean the waste management system, known as the potty.
Yeah.
We physically had to take it out of the vehicle, put it in a special container, and ship it to our friends in the great state of Texas, and they would send us back a clean potty a few weeks later.
Is that right?
Yes.
But they analyze things in there?
They did. Yes. The solid waste created by the astronauts was stored, and then they had scientists, I would say, that analyzed that for different reasons. So, yeah.
Now, Marty and I learned something, Marty, today, that Bill Shepard was talking about a gag that he played on his commander on a trip to space, where he floated. He said if you do number 1 in the space toilet, the fan is a lower RPM than number 2.
Correct,
it revs
correct.
up. So if you hear the fan real loud, someone's doing number 2. And Bill Shepard said he took a piece of the sausage he was eating and floated it up with the fan on number. They're always playing jokes on each other.
Yeah.
There. Now, Travis, does any of this smack anything that you had to do? And you bring it up if it does.
We play jokes. We play jokes on people in the military, but that's that's close quarters there.
Yeah. So I didn't know the two fan speeds. Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
What I had to in the military, so on the P3, there used to be a toilet because it used to be a commercial airliner. And so they reconfigured it. Well, they basically closed the bathroom, and we had a little R2D2 to pee in. And the junior person, which I was for about a year, had to carry that out. And a 10-hour mission in Japan, those officers know how to fill it. Everybody drinking coffee.
Hey, glasses of water a day, it's like, I've always thought about that. You get these crews with 7 in Earth orbit in the space lab that we were talking about with Mikey Haddad yesterday with, and I mean, you got to go frequently, kind of. So out of 7 people, the space toilet's hardly ever vacant, probably.
Right. Yeah. But all that waste has to be stored and then brought back.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, what Chris Ferguson told us today was that they had gotten into Atlantis and taken out one of the urine tanks, and it's now on the International Space Station.
Well, I went in. Yeah, I went in. We were doing it. We took out the water tanks to send them up there to store more water on station. But yeah, on Atlantis, well, it was on display.
So he was saying Atlantis still lives in orbit. There
Yes.
are pieces of it up there.
Yeah,
So.
and it was really odd to go in it at that angle, because you're used to it either being horizontal or vertical, but now at that angle, so so they had built some special platforms to put in, and the guy that was in charge of it had worked for me for years, and when I started to go inside, he said, "Whoa, wait a minute," and he handed me a set of wrenches, and he said, "I've been waiting 25 years to tell you to go to work." He said, "Go install these platforms."
That's good. All right. Good stories here we're sharing with the White family. There is the aft end of that is Atlantis. after one of its missions. Of course, you tell the doors of the orbital processing facilities because they've got that opening for the
You know,
vertical stabilizer.
special door for the vertical stabilizer, and all the doors open out wide enough to clear the wings.
And we've talked about what's going on here before with Terry and the close quarters that everybody works at. Again, Atlantis, while it was one of our workhorses of the space industry.
This is actually that was a shot of Atlantis going out of the orbiter processing facility.
Okay.
So it's on the orbiter transporter, and all the thrusters are covered up and everything. So
I would get the hint that gives it away to me is the landing gear's not down.
correct.
So,
Yep.
So it's going out there to be mated to the external tank and the VAB. And, what I think is neat about talking to Rebecca and Travis here is your dad and all these people, they were doing a job that there was no occupational workbook to look at what you're supposed to do. And almost every time an orbiter came back and was in your shuttle garage, there had to be some new, not really an anomaly, but something that, hey, let's come over here and look at, did that happen a lot?
Yes,
Come over
a
here and
lot.
look at this.
Yeah, and then we had to write a
We got a new
procedure
procedure
of how
now
to do that. Yeah, we had to write repair procedures that never existed. Especially after STS-1, we had to write all kinds of things and prove them out. So,
Do either one of you see NASA's tracking systems and so forth come into play in what you do in the military?
I see the military tracking systems using the same supply chain they do and everything, and how long it takes for us to get stuff, let alone for space shuttle or anything to get stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But you're a major. You just can't get that pen going fast enough to get stuff in there?
Everybody has a boss.
Everybody has a boss. Yeah, those generals up there for sure. This is a wacky 360-degree picture, but just kind of showing you the modernization. That's OPF2 there, where who sat at that desk there?
that was the operations desk. So you had somebody that was monitoring all the tasks going on and coordinating support. So everyone that wasn't working in there every single day had to check in with the desk when they come in and validate that they did have a task, that they were scheduled to work that day, and that they had the right paperwork and everything that they needed to go. So you would have a USA pad leader, you would have a NASA contact there, and then a payload contact. So they coordinated all the efforts that were going on the schedule.
Interesting. I'm looking over Marty's shoulder. We got someone saying, "Hi, Mom. Y'all look good." That's Patricia. All right. How's Patricia?
Patricia's my wife, so
Oh, that's your wife.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All
That's why
right.
it says, hi, I'm Mom.
yeah.
Hi,
My
okay.
wife.
She's
Oh,
yeah.
hi, it's Mom. Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought it said hi.
Hey, quit looking over my shoulder.
Well, she does have all four grandkids. So.
Yeah.
Well, good. Bill Whiting, it was good to see you back on the Space Coast today. Dave Stangy and his granddaughter are watching. She's watches Stay Curious. I don't think she's a year old. CB, hope you're feeling better. Doug Forrest, I know you're enjoying this in Los Angeles. He's an artist at Robert Law's up in Dundee, Scotland, enjoying his Thursday afternoon. Space Monkeys watching. Peggy Herbert.
That's my sister.
All right, your sister. Where's Peggy Herbert?
That's
In Wendover.
Oh, she lives in Wendover?
Yeah.
Okay. Connie McDaniel's watching. She's been on vacation, our ace volunteer here. Hazel Banks. Hi, Hayes. The Code Blue Collective. All right. And then Cynthia Rossi's watching. Marcia Follick.
Marsha Follick, yeah, she worked with me out there, and she was handling them when they're both infants.
Oh, good. Okay. Tom Usiak's got a question here we'll get to in a minute. Tom Celentano and Lynn Feather.
Lynn Feathers, she was my admin, and she was a fill-in grandma for these two when they were little.
Is that
Yeah.
right? Well,
They called her
Lynn
Granny.
Feather,
Hi,
thank
Granny.
you for
Hey,
watching.
Granny.
All right. Hope they're telling the truth, Granny. Okay, here. Frank Offutt. That's a new name. Offutt. Offutt. And Mom White, Patricia there. So thank you all for staying curious today. Tell your friends that we've been doing this. Marty and I, we're in our 4th year. This is like episode 844 today.
Awesome.
And people say I'm crazy to do it every weekday, but space history happens every weekday.
Correct.
In fact, we've got whose birthday's today that I posted on Facebook. I knew I blank out on that. I'll tell you in a minute. Yeah, there's astronaut birthdays.
Recon.
Yeah, Precourt.
Yeah.
Is 68 years old today, and he went to the Mir space station 3 times of his 4 launches. And there was a bunch of Mir guys there today that have been up to the Russian space station. Well, we wanted to. The sad day was in July when it landed. I think it was like July 20th, 21st. This is the farewell to Atlantis when it was brought in after landing at Kennedy Space Center with Chris Ferguson, the commander there. I'm sure you remember that day.
Yeah, I walked it back. I worked the runway ops that day, and then I walked it back when we towed it back to the OPF. And so, getting ready to put it inside.
Now, NASA's basically a reserve organization. You've got a lot of protocols, you've got dress codes, you've got things like that. But they let you cut loose a little bit on when these events happen, don't they?
And they let the workers and that. Yes, they do. Yeah,
And,
they still have to maintain the safety clearances. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
that doesn't change.
But and that safety is so important to what made this all successful, in my opinion. Thank you, Carlton Bailey. Emailed me this picture about an hour ago. There's the astronauts, 6 that participated in today's events. Again, Christopher, I think left to right, there's Bill Shepard, Chris Ferguson, that'd be Anna Fisher, and then on the other side you got Mike Mullane, Guy Gardner, and Mike Baker. And of course, if you haven't read Mike Mullane's book, Writing Rockets, you will, okay, because it's one of the definitive astronaut biographies, because it tells you a lot of things like the bathroom training and some things that other astronauts maybe didn't want to talk about, that Mullane certainly did. It's good to see him there. And this is what the festivity was all about, was this under construction, the 10th anniversary today, so this is 12 years ago. The Atlantis building, really a beautiful structure there at the campus of the Visitors Complex. So, Terry, you're going to tell us a little bit about this. You're not going to tell me they put the shuttle in there before they built the building.
No, they had 3 walls built, but it took up so much space that they couldn't do the 4th wall until they got the vehicle in there and set up, and then they finished building the building around it. So they shrink wrapped the entire orbiter to protect it from all the construction dust and any debris in that while they were finishing the building. So, and then I started going in there while they were doing the construction and pointing out a few things that they needed to do a little bit different so that people couldn't actually reach out and touch. It was close enough to some of the platforms that guests could have actually reached out and touched Atlantis.
You almost can. And
Yeah.
this is, you can walk around Discovery. I've seen Discovery and Udvar Hazy.
Yeah.
A year ago, Marty's, when we were there.
2 years.
2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, time flies. And that I'm very grateful that Marty orchestrated that trip to Washington, D.C. and to see that bird. And it was interesting to look underneath it with the gear down, because we did a program on the attachment points under
Yes.
there and so forth. And the shrink wrap, how do they get that shrink wrap on there?
I don't know. They do it on some big boats, but
I
it
think
was
they
already
spray
shrunk.
it, actually. I'm kind of a family business with spraying vinyl
Yeah.
like that, and this is how they mothballed the fleet even after World War II. Are you familiar with this, where they would put this vinyl, and as long as you don't put a primer on it, it won't stick. You can peel it right off.
Okay.
So were you there when they peeled this off?
No. Nope. I wasn't there that day. So.
See, that'd be as fun as packing bunch of stuff in there. I think it would be. How about you, Rebecca? You seen any of this before in your Navy
haven't.
career? That because I said it was a way to keep salt and water off of something without putting them under cover.
We've seen some of it out in Arizona, out there in the boneyard where
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
all the military aircraft parked. So
Well, here's this posture, 3, 2, 1, as he said, coming into the Space Center. And then there's it today with the astronauts out there. And, it's just every time I get close to that building, I just want to duck in and just say hello to it.
Yeah.
It's really something. To see the dark tiles, by the way, Mike Leinbach, launch director, told me those are the ones that are replaced. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
When you see the dark tiles, those
Yes.
are new.
Yeah, all the ones that are gray have been on for all 33 flights, but then some of them are nice and pristine black. They've only flown once, and then others are different shades. And if I get up close and personal, I can tell you how many flights on each tile.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, we'll do that one time out there. Marty is a dream to go out to the Saturn V Center and hear him talk about the lunar module that he worked on.
Yes.
LM9 sitting there, and or that's 8 that's sitting there, isn't it, Marty? I think LM9, LM8's the one out there.
15.
Yeah, 15
Nine.
was going to use 8
Nine.
and become 9. Yeah. So there is that's sort of when you walk up to it and you see the big reveal in there, and here's how it is there. And just a spectacular view looking right into that payload bay. I get engrossed in it just looking at it, checking it out, and seeing things that you never seen before. And just it weighs 20 tons, correct? When it was loaded, 20 tons to the orbiter.
Yeah, it weighed 100,000 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 20 tons. So on there. So parting shots when you see that there, Terry. In 10 years, I guess a question I could ask you, and Will, could it still be flying 10 years later?
If we had maintained it, yes.
Uh-huh.
There were still modifications to do and that, but you have to maintain. The minute we decided not to fly it anymore and we quit maintaining it in a flight configuration, then it would have been extremely expensive to return it to a flight configuration. So,
And anything else to share about mothballing it there? It's sort of bittersweet, of course, that Anna Fisher said, I can't believe I'm old enough to see it, my spaceship in a museum,
yeah.
sort of thing.
It's sad to not see it fly anymore, but it's great to be able to go see it at different museums, and especially here Space Center, and actually see it and enjoy it. Every time you go out, you learn something new, but it's not sitting in a boneyard somewhere. It's actually being preserved so people can
Yeah.
learn about it.
Or tore apart,
Yeah.
in pieces and parts, and sold for scrap.
Yeah.
But we did have to take all the hazardous components out of all of them before they could go on display.
Mhm.
So that was a time consuming to take them.
I got the engines on Atlantis and the other orbiters. Are those mock-ups or are those real RS-25 engines?
The bells are real.
Okay.
Now, the power heads and that, I don't know because I haven't been in the aft of the vehicle and that, but
They wouldn't need those in there, would
well, no, they wouldn't, and those were reusable engines, so
Right.
they're using those on future
they? Yeah.
spacecraft.
So it's
Yeah.
just the bell, the exhaust
And-
cone is the only
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really.
And I don't know how much of the hardware is actually in there on there because engines do have a shelf life. In other words, you fly them so many times and then you don't fly them again, so they could have had those engines still available. So.
Well, any final thoughts there, Terry, as we put a wrap on the 10th anniversary of Atlantis being out there? Any
Nope,
thoughts?
just tell the public out there that they need to tell their elected officials to continue to support the space program because we learn so much more from space and so many things are developed for space that benefits all of mankind here on Earth.
Mhm. Rebecca, what do you have to say? It's been great having you on here, and a great surprise.
enjoyed
And
being
thank you
here.
here. Your dad talks about you a lot, of course. I mean, what do you think about just in general? What we've talked about the shuttle, your dad's career. What hits your point there?
Well, I'm glad that at least the private sector has kind of taken to flight so that we're still continuing to go. It's interesting how it's like more tourism now too, but we're still learning. And then hopefully we do get to go to Mars one day. I love the childhood that I had with growing up out here with a lot of family members that have been involved in the whole space game. I have experiences that nobody ever has. And so I just thank my whole family for the generations of space education.
And she knew so much about space that when they would have discussions in the Navy, and she'd tell them, they said, "How do you know that?" And she got to be nicknamed Mrs. NASA because she knew the answers.
Is that right? That's neat. Well, how about your children? Are they going to be little space geeks or what?
Well, Riley's been carrying around her space shuttle the whole time since we've been here. I hope so, but we'll see where space is in the next 10, 20 years. So
They have a lot of space toys, and they have the ones that you build so that they can crawl through and all that. So like they're in a spacecraft.
Well, Terry, you've created a space legacy with you and your wife's family here, and Travis, you're continuing that with your military career there. Can you just tell us a little bit about again what you're going to go up to Alaska and be involved with our
So
security or
just making sure warfighters have access to space. So, like I said, GPS, satellite communications, understanding how space affects operations and how you can enable that. So
You're in the Army,
Yes, sir.
so people might not really connect the Army like they would with the Air Force.
with the Space Force, so Army has space operations officers, just like Space Force. Marines have them. The Navy has them as well. So there's space officers in every branch.
Something that popped into my head, you both being veterans, what do you think of the Space Force being created as a military branch? Did you see that it was a necessary move, or?
It's
man,
it's something
the
needed.
next step.
Yeah.
Like especially with everything being GPS and
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe we'll get to those little Star Wars one-seat fighters in there and so forth. So Marty's got a question there. We're going to head out here on a wonderful Stay Curious program we got Rebecca, Travis, and Terry White here, and many of their family members watching, and it's been a great show reminiscent about Atlantis being 10 years at the Kennedy Space Center. Marty?
Travis, would you ever consider growing a mustache like your dad? This comes from Dave Stangy.
Probably when I get out. I'm not allowed to have one yet. So another 7 years.
There you go.
You gotta
Well,
wait to get white.
Yeah, yours wouldn't be
I'm
white.
getting some white, but yeah.
That's I suppose that Dad's had this a while, and we tease him
Our
that President
whole life.
Obama would know him by his mustache, right?
everybody. It's a handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
Like all my friends, that's how they know my dad.
Yeah.
And it's also fun going to museums with them. Like when we went to go see Discovery, and then he goes up to the docent and is asking them questions, and he's like, "No," and then all of a sudden, everybody starts circling around my dad as he talks.
Yeah, yeah. That's I can see that happening when people of authority are talking. Yeah, people want to know. So, well, we thank you all for watching Stay Curious today. Marty, anything to finalize there? We have had a great Streamlabs program here today, and I've enjoyed meeting your kids here, Terry. And once again, you really do an important thing with us here at the American Space Museum by sharing once a month or so with us this important legacy of the shuttle era. And we encourage you all to come out here to your vacation here in Florida. Shame on you if you don't go out to Kennedy Visitors Complex. What's it, 75 or what is it, $75 I think admission.
Yes.
You can get a 2-day pass for $85. That barely gets your foot in the door over at the attractions 50 miles away, okay, or Orlando. So, and seeing Atlantis and then driving the bus out to see the Saturn V rocket and hold touch a moon rock and look at 3 others is worth its weight in gold, I think. So, so appreciate everybody here. All right. Thank you all very much, Whites, for a wonderful conversation today. We'll remind you that tomorrow we've got young man David Millie from the Via Space hometown rocket company here is going to tell us about how they're going to launch low Earth orbit satellites using recycled plastic in their rocket called Dauntless. So you're not going to want to miss that. Until then, I want to say thank you, Marty, and a special thanks to the White family for enjoying our museum. Until tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette saying, I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.